courthouse. 25.
We are live.
Yeah.
Mr. Blasey.
What's that?
All right. Mr. Stockdale, if you want to tear into finance.
Okay, we have the reports for the treasurer's report for July, cafeteria fund, the building fund, and the capital projects fund. We just got a couple of those.
Yep. In your folders, you have the cafeteria fund, building fund, and capital projects fund reports. With August being a really early board meeting, we're just getting statements back today and yesterday. So the treasurer's report will be provided to you at the board meeting.
For the food fund,
Yes.
has the state decided that they are dropping the free breakfasts and free lunches all the way through, or are they going to continue that for part of the year?
It wasn't breakfast. Breakfast
Yeah.
stays.
Okay.
At
So-
the elementary school.
Oh, at
it's
elementary.
Not
Yeah.
at the high school.
Not at the high school.
We just,
Yeah.
and I
And
was
that was
talking
a
about
district level decision, I think?
And lunch we
No.
didn't qualify for.
No, the federal program ended, right? And then we
Yeah.
didn't. We talked about that, I think, in June
Well,
or something.
the state was talking about picking up where the federal left off for a year.
I haven't received anything on that yet, and Mr. Linder had not forwarded anything on that yet
Okay.
as well. So I might not be on all of the
Well, they
emails
probably
yet.
haven't made a decision
but,
yet then.
The students and the families that were free and reduced, or that qualified for that, will continue
Yeah, that hasn't
to receive
changed.
that. That isn't changing. And Mr. Linder kept up with the application process with our families, even though we didn't have to necessarily, because everyone was receiving free and reduced. We kept up on that application process to ensure that when the program would eventually end, which it is, that our records are accurate. And it is important to have accurate numbers for the free and reduced counts, because those percentages are factored into other programs. It determines your E-rate discount. It's families that received the PA EBT cards. That was based off of their free and reduced eligibility. So we have accurate data in our system right now. There's a grace period at the start of each school year where we'll be working with our families to ensure that if they are free and reduced, that that's covered, that they remain covered. And actually there was just an email yesterday about the PA EBT process for the summer months as well. So that's definitely something we're keeping tabs on.
Heather, I just searched while we were talking, and it looks like Pennsylvania updated their guidelines and they expanded the access to it, but I don't see anything else in the works about like doing it for everybody.
Okay.
So I guess if you haven't, if anyone's listening and you haven't checked that in a while, maybe go check. You might qualify now when you didn't before.
Absolutely. Thanks for checking that.
Yep.
And that form will be going home with every student at the start of the year in their start of year packets as well.
Okay. No other questions about that? Check registers total $745,623.18.
And-
Lots of checks.
Yep, and in addition, there are two registers that were just from today, and those are included in your folders. Just a standard one, and then Mrs. Burkholder also ran the cyber tuition register. So that's available for your review as well. So those will be listed on the agenda for the board meeting next week.
Really good. MHE engineering. 2 bills. Still getting auditorium bills.
Yep.
And we're still waiting on the loans approved, right? we're just waiting to send it out.
I think, Mr. Blasey, you may have signed some final items on that, on that just now. So the contract,
I don't know if we have to go to vote again on anything. I think it's
Just rolling.
done.
Thank you. Legacy Ford for the driver ed car, same as before.
Yep.
So,
Everything identical, except for the name of the company, and I thank them over there for getting it back to us right away on Monday morning, so I could email it out to you guys yesterday. And we already have the vehicle over
it's
here.
in there or something.
Yep. So it's ready to go.
Good. Okay. Biomass fuel bid, I assume we got one bid?
Well, this is approval to advertise.
We haven't done it yet?
Yeah, we
Okay.
haven't done it yet. And this is an item that was on the August agenda last year as well. So following the same timeline, we'll advertise for bids and see what we
What
get
Lewis
back.
is gonna do for us?
Yeah, they've been, I think, the sole bidder every prior year.
Yeah. Anything else?
What did, I'm sure it's in here, I can't remember. Did Legacy keep the same price?
Yeah.
Yep, 400.
Everything's the same.
Yep.
This is what it was before.
There was one thing in the registers. What's S4 teachers? What is that?
Source for teachers.
Yeah, it's labeled as S4 teachers.
Substitutes.
Yeah, it's our
Substitutes?
substitutes. They're now called ESS, but in our fund accounting system, when we put their account in, it was Source for Teachers or S4T.
Yeah, most you can decipher through. I think Doug gave me a nice book that explained all of the account codes and what they mean. I just saw S4 teachers, and I didn't know if that was training or what that was.
No, that's an obligatory cost for the district on an annual basis, and it's done via ACH, and so that's why it shows up, I believe. Well, I don't have that particular register in front of me, but that one will show up in a separate line item at the bottom of the register, and then it gets tallied into the grand total.
Thank you.
Yep.
We're done.
Good. We can move to athletics and health.
So athletics and health, the first item on the agenda to discuss is a letter of resignation from a boys varsity assistant soccer coach. I would like to mention who that is, but I'd leave that up to you folks. I think the letter of resignation was admirable, and we thank you for taking the business manager position. So it is with regret, and we do know how much you care about that. So thank you, Lance Mavis.
Thank you.
Any discussion on the item? And item 2, letter of resignation from golf coach. I believe that is the varsity junior high. It's the only golf coach we have.
That's the
right?
only one.
And that is Mr. Sandonato. Pronounce his name properly, I apologize. Item 3, the administration may make a recommendation to hire coaching staff. I'm assuming that's with the open positions we may have filled between now and next Tuesday if we get people in interview scheduled. Any update on that, Ryan?
So I have 2 or 3 volunteers right now that submitted the application, everything. I'm just waiting on their clearances. So they once they can give me their clearances, I can take them to you guys. So I don't know when they will get them to me, but they know they need to.
These are volunteer positions?
Yeah, for
Excellent.
now, yeah, just volunteer for right now.
For soccer or for what?
One is for soccer, and one is for boys basketball.
I'd like to make,
Potentials for 1 and 2. Just, we don't have anything yet, so.
Not quite yet.
I'd like to make mention, hopefully somebody is listening that has an interest in coaching girls basketball, because we've been waiting for somebody to throw their hat in, so that deadline's coming quick for the season. Items 4 and 5 is the approval of the 22-23 athletic and coaching handbooks. Thank you for highlighting the updated portions. Thank you. I would encourage folks to peruse through them. I know there's been discussion over things we wanted changed. I haven't heard a whole lot, but I know they just came out. So thank you for the work. That's a lot that you went through. If you looked at all that and updated it all, that's a lot of stuff. But Crystal, you had some suggestions over the past few months in coaching athletic handbook we wanted to see changed, updated, revised. Putting on the spot.
If I may, there's something I'm kind of excited about in the handbook, how to do with eligibility. We presented it to our coaches. Ryan presented it to the coaches at the fall meeting, and they were kind of excited for it. So in the past, if a student was ineligible, which at the junior high level was failing 2 or more classes, at the senior high level was failing 3 or more classes, that they could not participate and were not allowed to come to practice, and we shut the door, and good luck that they could get their grades up and come back. Ryan and I together worked on this. So what we would like to do, first of all, the day of reporting is changing. In the past, we were running the report Monday morning. Kids found out Monday afternoon that they weren't going to practice in 10 minutes, and parents found out after that. So Ryan suggested, in what he's done in the past, run the report Friday morning. So kids can still participate Friday night and Saturday. The actual PIAA requires them to be ineligible Sunday to Saturday. So that gives kids and parents notice. He will be reaching out to kids, parents, teachers of these kids, and he's also flagging them at 1 failure. So they're still eligible to participate, compete, and reaching out to the kids and teachers and parents to give them kind of a heads up. This is where we're at. Once they meet the ineligibility status, their first week, they can attend practices. They can attend competitions. They cannot dress for competitions. So they can sit with the team. They just cannot participate. They can't compete, they can't be dressed. If they are ineligible for a second week, they are going to be required to attend mandatory tutoring. Tuesday and Thursday that week, they may attend practices the other days. If there's an away game the night of tutoring, they're allowed to go to the away game. They just have to schedule with Ryan a makeup session for tutoring. That's pretty exciting because we're not shutting the door on these kids anymore. We're providing them opportunity for tutoring, keeping that hook to keep them wanting to be involved. And I think we may, like I've heard kids say, well, I'm not even going out for the team because I'll be ineligible.
Does anything go out to their parents? Well, first of all, I think it's a great idea, the changes. Does anything go out to their parents?
We can send something in their packets to update them with, it's in the handbook.
I think,
will
do
be
you
in
mean
my
when they're
handbook.
actually ineligible?
What do you mean by something goes out to the parents?
Like about the policy or if they're ineligible?
If they're ineligible.
Yes.
I don't think in the past.
Because I was just going to say, I think it was hit and miss because it seemed like in the past, now don't quote me on this, but there were parents that I had spoken to that were almost like surprised once that it was like, I didn't even know. And so I think it's a good idea for us to reach out if we're not,
Yeah, that's on my list. Coaches, teachers, because I'll be able to see, hey, they're having trouble with social studies or math or whatever, and say, hey, what's going on with this student? And then, parents, obviously I'll talk to the kid and see, what's going on, how can I help? So hopefully,
Yeah.
like I said, adding the 1 class, it's really easy. It's one or more, so they're technically still eligible, but I'll be able to see, hey, they have an issue with this class or they're failing, still eligible, what's going on, so we can hopefully work to get them off that list completely, so they don't have, something go wrong and where they're failing 2 classes, and now you sit for them.
This feels really great, just like super proactive, so that we kind of can catch them before they, fall over. And just thank y'all for all the work you did on this. I think this is a great policy.
I like the mitigation part of it that you're discussing. I think that that's really important. But what is our thought process by allowing 3 failing grades before they're ineligible?
That's the idea.
But it doesn't have to be ours. Ours could be more strict kind of thing.
Ours is actually tighter than the
Yeah,
Handbook.
certain school districts, a lot of the ones, for example, it's 2 or more, 2 is the cutoff. That's kind of just policy.
So what is our thought process behind allowing 3?
PI
So-
don't play a lot.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's just always
Yeah,
been that
that's
way.
what the switch is.
And we're actually
It
more
is
stringent
tighter
than
than
PIAA. I haven't read those bylaws in a while. You'd have to look that up. But
Yeah.
when I've read them in the past, ours is tighter. Like it can be even more.
Theirs goes in a number of passes.
Yeah.
And one of the things with ours is we take more credits than some schools.
Okay.
So we actually can fail more
Mhm.
technically because they have to be, I think the.
Right, I think theirs says they have to be
has
passing
4.
4, and
Yeah,
ours would be passing
4.
5.
But some
and
of
then
our
failing
kids
3.
take 8 credits or more, see, so they can, because of us demanding more credits, they actually can fail more and still be eligible.
Okay.
That's how that works
That's
out.
kind of what I was trying to
Yeah.
get at. Why do we?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think like what Gabe was saying, like sometimes kids didn't find out till Monday. Their parents showed up Monday evening for their event and the kid was like, yeah, I'm not participating tonight, kind of deal. So it sounds like that will be avoided, which is awesome. And I saw the athlete of the week. I love it. Keeps kids excited and striving for good work.
I just want to say that I'm excited about it as well. Obviously I work with some students that are struggling learners, and I think that the tutoring part of this is going to be huge. I know that Lance, as a coach, not business manager, Lance, had been talking about some of these ideas for a number of years too. So I'm really glad to see that we have a team that's embracing that and coming around to that. He tried some things on a very small scale with junior high wrestling. Some time ago, and together, we had worked on that and saw some really nice things happen on just like a little small trial scale of that. So I'm really, really excited to see what that would look like, for all of our athletes. So.
Well, Mr. Fitzgerald was in on that at the
Yes.
time too.
Mr. Fitzgerald has been helpful over the years in trying to, I've tracked him down myself to be like, this kiddo's having a hard time, like, can you talk to him? So I think, this just sounds great to me. I think it sounds nice.
Awesome.
There was one item that it's kind of a gray area, but if you read the policy that's in the coach's handbook, it's the social media aspect of it. It's not going away. So to say to not use it, it's going to be challenging. And it's one of those things where I think it's great to showcase. Like, social media is an awesome way to showcase our district. I kind of challenge you to look at a way to create like a Sullivan softball or Sullivan wrestling or Sullivan. Essentially, that way the coach can contact, the entire team can be part of that group versus friends on pages. I just think it's something to think about. I'll leave it in your court, but the handbook still does have a...
Are you talking about communicating with each other?
Yeah, it does have the personal, so like say me as Anthony Durone coach, it does prevent me, and per the handbook, to befriend a athlete on my team. However, if it was a group or a page, I didn't know if that was a way of communication the coaches could have. And, you see more things, like the coach is there, they snapshot of somebody stealing home. Those things are nice to see, and social media's going to get bigger. It's not going away. So to bar it and not have what you can do and things like that might need the interpretation that social media is out there. But I don't think that's what it is. I think it's just that private communication we're trying to stay away from. But I think there's some work that can be done in it, and it's not anything crazy.
Yeah, for sure. We're looking at, I don't know if you were familiar with Remind Me. It's a Remind Me app. So technically, it's an app where everyone's, I wouldn't say anonymous, but you're not technically contacting the kid
Through their
right
phone
through the
number.
phone, so I'm not technically reaching out and talking to this kid or whatever by phone, text messages or whatever. You can send it out through this Remind Me app, and it goes to them, I'd say anonymous, but they know who it's going through. But they don't have I don't have your personal number for that.
Another way to look at it, so say me again as a coach reaching out through my messenger app through Facebook to an athlete, that's all tracked. So that's one of the things versus I can call them on the phone. We're trying to stay away from that private communication. Calling on the phone, how do you track what they talked about? Whereas if a kid, if there was an issue, you have hard proof that something took place or didn't take place. And I'm just spitballing ideas on it because it's just a one paragraph out of 50, 60 some pages. When this was put in there, it was probably 2012, 2013. So things have changed. I just challenge it.
It feels like that negative leadership thing Doug talks about a lot.
It is.
It feels like it was created for a specific situation and is now limiting the potential of other possibilities.
And I think it could be huge and very beneficial.
Yeah.
I have that Remind Me app.
50 on the coaches handbook.
My boy's on a summer team right now to use it, and it's you can restrict two-way communication. So like he has
Just
it on,
informative.
he has it on his phone. He cannot respond to anything. As a matter of fact, as a parent, I can't respond to it. It's just one way. So it's like rain delay, the game, location change. Here's an address. Don't forget to bring water. Whatever. It's like this just constant informational pieces coming through. It actually works pretty slick. So not negating I agree with Anthony as well. I mean, I think that as time goes on, even if the Facebook side is not even communication to the players, just like someone sliding in home, pictures.
It could just be a managed page, and go get it. It's just there's lots of ideas.
Recruiting for coaching.
Yeah, absolutely.
We talked about, I don't know what the policies are up here, but we talked about like a Twitter page, things like that. I know that was something we used in the past. I don't know the policies to be able to say we can or we cannot do it because there's a lot of stuff involved with social media, unfortunately. But I know, in the past, we used that to do the things you were saying. Basically, I would be there, snap a picture, I could upload it right to Twitter, whatever, informative, you know what I mean, like game scores, things like that.
The community does a pretty good job of updating. I think, Crystal, you're an admin on one of them that I see, and I see wrestling scores and basketball scores all winter. But I know the school doesn't really do a whole lot with it. It's not. It's a personal, private thing that's done. It's phenomenal. I think like Sullivan County Griffin Athletics, and I'm sure you're coming from a school that had maybe potentially used stuff like this. So pitch it.
Definitely worth looking
See
into.
what we can do to help you.
Yep.
Where is the wording for the social media? It says 41.
Page 50.
50.
50.
Really, all the states is not using their personal social media sites.
Like one-on-one.
So the interpretation is, I hear from some coaches, we can't use social media. And I don't think that's the correct statement.
Yeah, 'cause I know
And like
in
you said, I
Italy-
think it had to do with one situation and a time long ago, and it's hindering the possibilities that we could
Well, and I
use it
think
for.
like Little League, I know certain teams use like Messenger. They
Yeah.
made a team group, like you were saying, so.
And we would have to look into kids that are on do not publish lists, and
Right.
that's where it gets a little touchy.
With that said, there is a slot for other. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss tonight, Ryan? Anything we can do to help you? Anything, Al, Joe?
I don't know.
Fire away, Mr. Bossett.
We had talked about that archery club, and I actually reached out to the game commission just to like follow up and say, hey, we're still here. It's not a no. I knew you guys were working on it. Did you make any, I
did
felt like we
not,
were,
'cause
we were close or there, or,
I will. Hold on.
alright. Does it make sense to, I'm not trying to rush it, but based on the students coming back, even if we slow played it with how we word the acceptance of the program, so at least, I don't know what needs to be done. I know there's equipment both from a district perspective, also from a club perspective. I don't know, just think about it.
And I'm gonna look at my notes too, because now that you said that, I did have stuff, so I'll probably send you that later.
I think I could find
You know,
something.
if it's a club,
Difficult
more
teachers.
than likely they have to raise their own funds.
Yeah, I don't know how the financials work specifically, but if there are questions, we can
Well,
circle
wasn't
back.
it,
There is some
wasn't it
equipment
discussed
here.
that, I was gonna say, wasn't it discussed that we have a lot of equipment just
We have
sitting?
equipment.
I think where we left off was that we just needed,
I think with
The
everything,
issue is the
the
training.
the training
of
last
staff
because of-
members, but,
Yeah.
yeah, because they had started that, but,
yeah.
in,
I will get the contact information from you, so we can do that.
yeah, they said no worries on that, just they'll schedule it when available and we can move ahead. Okay.
Do you want it as a club or do you want it as a class?
I would, I would, you could probably ask Mike, but
I can find the information.
I'm not partial to either one. Whatever works best for the district, really. If having it as a club actually creates more problems, then let's have it as a part of the curriculum for the,
That's what I'm saying with the fund. Okay. If it's a club, they're gonna have to raise their own funds. If it's a class,
Well, unless you introduce it in a class
yeah.
and then have the class
Yeah.
or club.
And you gotta see if
Well,
the
and then
interest is
club, you
there.
gotta worry about.
Yeah.
yeah, I think,
You know, I mean, it may promote itself if they do it in phys ed class and
Yeah.
somebody wants to do it later, but, you know.
yeah, I mean, I think that's what I was saying about, I don't want to say crafty wording, but if we could word it to at least allow it to progress, like Hal said, so we could see if there's an interest, and then how far do you go to, you know, if 40 kids sign up, then we have a huge interest. If there's 2, it doesn't mean kill it, it's just a different progression.
There are quite a
Problem
few
is,
kids that are
it's kind of a
involved
winter
with 4-H
activity.
too.
And the gym is jam-packed, you know,
Yeah.
to do it after school. You know, baseball and softball season would be the best time to do it after school. Because once they get outside, we
Once
have
they
other
get
sports. What's that?
Once they get outside.
Yeah, once they get, but I'm saying,
Yeah.
I mean, during the winter, you're not gonna have archery
No.
called going into the gym and setting up stuff.
Well, but you could do it in like the
We're already
cafeteria,
fighting
you
over
just need
indoor
lanes.
space.
In between tables is a lane. I mean,
Are we talking
With-
about archery?
yeah. You stick the hay bale or whatever you're using as a buffer up at the lane, at the top, you have this.
Yeah, a lot of those
down
clubs, if you saw where they shoot, they have 2 lanes. They're pretty compact.
here. Yeah. When I was in high school,
There's ways around it. I don't think
Yeah.
it's necessary that we have to do it in the gym if that's a problem.
I think you just need somebody to champion it and say like, yes, we want this at this school, and we'll figure it out how.
Back to the-
I
Let me
nominate.
know,
I'll get
especially if
that
you have
number.
somebody that wants to,
Flossie,
like she
so
said,
she has-
if you have someone that wants to chase it, then that would be ideal.
And that is all for athletics and health, if nothing else.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
With building and grounds, item 1, informational. There's a request from the SCESPA for the use of the high school library. And unless anybody else has anything, if you get a chance, take a walk around the school and see all the things that have been happening.
And out front.
Yeah.
You can see SCHS now.
Yeah.
There's
And,
letters there.
well, that's minor. There's,
You could be happy about
There's-
little things.
there's drainage on the field. the parking lot's been sealed. Mr. McMahon will have it all in his report, but there's a lot of other stuff that's been happening that has enhanced the school and stuff.
The parking lot looks great.
Thank
They do
you.
a great job. We do that in a 3-year cycle, so there's sections every 3 years.
I have an additional item that you'll have for next week. I was just waiting to get everybody's signatures on it. 7th grade orientation and new student orientation will be Tuesday, August 23rd at 6 p.m. And they should report to the auditorium. And we'll provide tours and refreshments.
23rd at what time? 6?
6.
I'm guessing this would probably have to come from Doug, but I was gonna check to see what the, Lance, you don't happen to know the status on the auditorium bid process? Do you?
I do not. You mean the athletic entrance, the bid process?
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay. The auditorium one is done.
No, the,
Thank goodness.
except for the AC,
I do not
Yeah.
know the status on
the,
that.
entrance.
I'll throw in something, because today I had a virtual meet with Tremco, doing the gym roof.
Mhm.
Projected as it starts right now would be start as the 22nd, and completion by the 8th of September. But that's gonna be depending on when they actually start. They're projecting the 22nd start, but they have projects going depending on weather, so it could be a couple days here or there, but it's gonna be right in that vicinity. So we worked out where they're gonna put supplies, how we're gonna access the roof, whether it's gonna interrupt gym classes or not, and all that kind of stuff. So
Okay.
it's all good.
Good deal. Good deal. Mary Lise?
Now we'll go to curriculum. First item is approval of the 2022-2023 Sullivan County Elementary School Handbook. I don't know if y'all have gotten a chance to look through it yet, but anything that y'all have questions about? Yeah, similar to like the coaches' handbooks and stuff, try to give these a read before next week because we spend the rest of the year then being like, well, that's what the handbook says. So I do have some questions. I marked it up. I'm gonna share it with you rather than going through point by point. First of all, thank you. I cannot imagine how laborious the process is of going through these every year, y'all, and like updating them. That's really fun. Just some questions I have generally between elementary school and high school. There are some things that I see like in elementary school that aren't in high school, and I'm not sure if they're like explicit differences or just like differences in what we've put in the handbooks in the past. I thought this was really comprehensive. The only for the elementary school, the only big questions I had were one around like grading. Maybe like I know we've had some conversations around like parents understanding like how often things are updated.
Yes, and that's something that we had spoken about addressing with the teaching staff.
Yeah.
We're very explicit of what our expectations are.
Yeah.
As far as the families, we were going to do those educational evenings for the parent portal and go
Yeah.
about it that way as
Yeah.
opposed to handbook information, but it's
Yeah.
certainly something we could include in there.
I just wonder, people tend to go back to this throughout the year, right? So just something about like, you can reasonably expect that every week, 2 weeks, you know, because I think, you know, people just don't know what to expect, and especially when things are so instantaneous these days.
Well, and that brings up a good point too, because we discussed that the teachers are supposed to do this, or the teachers are supposed to do that. And then it went back to, do the teachers know what they're supposed to do? And grades not getting put in for a month and stuff like that. So I don't know if you guys are gonna work on that on a personal level per se, to make sure that the grades are getting in quicker, or if we do need to add it to the handbook. So that's a serious thing in my mind.
Yeah, I know we've been talking about that in the work session, and both Ms. Taylor and Ms. Everlin were, I I know high school, it's been pretty clear, it's just a matter of kind of making sure it's like done across the board. In elementary school, you were
Yeah,
working on
and
clarifying.
the
it.
elementary will be, although we don't have the PIAA eligibility like the high school does, there will be that expectation that grade books are updated regularly. I believe we're just gonna keep it with the week. I mean, not necessarily stipulating you need X number of grades in, because in the elementary, especially a self-contained classroom, you have so many things to grade and whatnot, subject areas, but just that there's an update weekly and that parents can expect outside of kindergarten, because they have the skills-based report cards, so they're
Which
are
is
not
really
in the
cool.
portal. Yeah, but yes, we have had discussions about this.
Yeah, I don't want varsity kids putting in, these huge reports and then they don't get graded for a month afterwards. Like, that's just not acceptable.
I think that's something else that, is gonna affect the athletics
Absolutely.
as well.
So
with Ryan
at our
trying to
coaches
move
meeting, we discussed, that's something I will address
Okay.
at faculty meeting with my
Because
staff and.
Yeah.
With starting the tutoring program, not having grades in, could be the difference between a student playing that should be going to this tutoring program. I hope they all play, and hopefully in a perfect world we don't have to use the tutoring program, but it's there for those who need it. So hopefully the grades get put in so they can attend that.
And we're also going to have discussions about the weighting, making
Yeah.
sure that, homework isn't worth as much as an exam.
Yeah.
So,
I had a small change to the elementary handbook. I forgot the page number, I didn't bring it with me, but there was a very small section, it was like maybe 2 small paragraphs that said student services, and it said speech and language and then enrichment. I actually just we're going to take that whole thing right out of there, and the reason behind that is, back in time, those were the 2, I would say, like major services that a student would receive as far as like a support service. But now they've expanded so much. We have things like we have speech and language, we have orientation and mobility, we have vision, we have hearing, we have occupational therapy, physical therapy. Like it's an extensive list that is actually in a different part that kind of lists like the types of services that we have. And all that it would be saying in that section is it would be, provided as written in their IEP or GIEP, because it's different for every student. The way that it's written for the speech right now says that they would have weekly services, which isn't always true. We have some students that only get speech, twice a month, or we have some students that get speech twice a week. And so for every student that has any type of related service or support, it's provided the way that it's written in their plan. So I don't think that those paragraphs are necessary, because they aren't really very representative of what the services are. And there's a different section before that lists the types of services that we have already. So it was a little bit redundant and not really accurate. So we're just going to delete those unless anyone has a question.
Thanks.
Awesome. I just a couple other things. I think this was kind of just a thought for me across the board about just like clarifying in a few spots, like who you contact if you have a question about blank. Like that appears in some places but not in others. So for example, like the bullying section, that's something we saw come up on that parent and community survey quite a bit. And it's we basically have the statement, right, that of course we're going to provide a safe, positive learning environment. But I kind of wondered, like, who do I go to first if I have a concern that my kid is being bullied or that my kid might be a bully? Like, who do I call first, or just things like that I thought might be helpful. We've kind of talked about the high school too handbook. Do anyone have any questions about that? The only big thing I want to flag there, page 37, it looks like it still says breakfast and lunch will be provided free to everyone. But otherwise, this is awesome. I mean, there's so much in here.
Yeah, you guys put a lot of,
Yeah.
that looks great.
And just to, publicly address your question, Mary Elise, about the bullying.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
Ideally, and we can certainly add it in there, Ideally notifying the teacher first. I mean, our doors and phones, and get a hold of Lynn and I whenever needed, or, Dr. Zawadi, we're here to help, but a lot of times the classroom teacher is able to provide kind of that first line of, they typically have more information. If the parents then, I would say, are not satisfied, or if it's something they don't feel comfortable discussing with the teacher, reach out to us, or if they want to involve, we can, tackle it as a team. But I would say just really whoever they feel comfortable to reaching out to.
That's good, yeah. Yeah, I wondered if like a counselor gets
Yep.
involved
Oh, yeah,
first, or
counselors.
okay.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
some of that stuff kind of happens organically sometimes,
Yeah.
because they might already be talking to the guidance counselor, because the kid is having some concerns, or they might be in a meeting with me, or they might, like some of that stuff just happens naturally, but I agree that anyone that they feel comfortable with, and I think that we, as a team, just need to make sure that we're relaying that information to each other, so it's not, well, I told Dr. Zawadi, what do you mean you don't know?
Right.
Like, so, and that's on us to make sure we communicate.
But I think in like years past, as I was on the other side of the school board watching the meetings and stuff, it seems like a lot of parents forget to talk to the teachers. They forget and they go straight to the school board members, and we're not exactly sure what, to say to them, because we're not in that situation that day in that moment. And so I think like having that chain of command there for the parents is very vitally important.
And for you guys to kick it back.
Exactly.
To reach out to the teachers and the principals.
Even there's
Exactly.
things on our level that we kick back to the teachers, and it's just, it's nice to give our, professional staff the opportunity to address issues.
Before they blow up and
Yes.
become things that can't be fixed. Absolutely. And Mrs. Keeler, Ms. Keeler, do you know when your education nights are going to be scheduled?
We are having an open house scheduled for the elementary, so there will be some type of parent information occurring that evening. We have to sit down and kind of iron out when we're rolling out certain educational evenings for families, like the parent portal. We had discussed maybe having that the night of the 7th grade orientation. And I can get you the date for the open house that was already board approved. But we also are going to be opening up those functions for outside agencies. So like if victim services wants to come in, or children and youth, and just to have resources available for our families. And the open house is tentatively October 5th in the elementary.
Thank you.
Yep.
Something else we're going to be rolling out this year, opportunities for parents to do some of their online, or their forms they do at the beginning of the year online. So to get access to some of that, they will need to be able to get on Plus portals. So we'll be providing guidance for that as well. So that will be helpful in that regard.
That's great.
Anything else on handbooks?
Yeah, I had one thing. I was looking for it, but I can't find it. Is there anything in there about retaliation? Because
Like against staff or parents?
yeah, because I think sometimes the calls that we get that Heather's talking about, I would say more often than not, if we get a call about something, it's a parent, they want to vent something out, and then when you get to the point of, okay, let's do something about this. Well, I don't want to say anything because I don't want it to go negatively towards, and it's not necessarily just on the bullying piece, it's sort of in the realm of, coaching, teachers. I see it happening quite a bit. I'm not saying that there's 100 conversations, but if there's 3, 2 of them say, well, we'll see how it works, and they sort of back down, versus, hey, let's take this to the next level. If you have a concern, you should just air it out.
I have a question, Dave, just for clarification. Is it because they're worried about retaliation, or because they've experienced retaliation?
Worried.
Okay.
So for example, their child, I'm making this up, their child's in the classroom and Sarah's picking on Johnny. Johnny's parents does not want any issues for him. So I'll just wait and see how this thing plays out, versus, or occasionally, it might be a complaint against the teacher. again, not using any names or specifics, I know there were a few times where there was some things that happened where there was parents, and you, Sam, you and I worked on one of them, and I don't think it was anything, but I know that from time to time, the parents are like, oh God, I don't want to say anything, because then it's the next 4 years with a little, check mark.
Well, that's the same thing with sports too. We've got numerous calls about that.
So I don't know how you, even if it's just a small.
So at the student level, we've had issues where kids have reported something and another kid got in trouble and they retaliated against that kid. And I mean, there were serious consequences for the retaliation.
And I don't know how you word it, or I can't remember. I was trying to look to see if there was anything, but maybe if there's something in there that basically it's just a blanket statement that just says, it's unacceptable, so that we can circle back on that to say, okay, if there's evidence of
Curious,
this.
and I would have to pull it up in the policy as far as educators go, misconduct, and just their professional expectations and ethics. That is, I believe, a piece that's embedded in that.
It's definitely for sure in one of the policies. I just don't know which one it is, about the retaliation piece for employees. I don't have it memorized off the top of my head where it is. I would have to look.
Because I think the goal is just to have active feedback loops where parents feel really comfortable about saying, it was nothing, but I felt comfortable saying
And
something.
please encourage them to reach out to us, because if we don't know stuff's going on, we can't stop it.
No doubt. I'm just,
Yeah.
But it's a good
if somebody tells you a secret, that's what it is, a secret, right? So,
Well, I think it's like you said, like, it's not like, it's people are afraid of it, right? And so part of maybe changing that culture, that like, that fear that we have is saying like, we have things to guard against this. And so if that happens, here's what would X, Y, and Z then happen.
Yeah, we
That
went
could
open
assure
door
people
policy.
that,
Yeah.
that, that there are measures in place to work against that. And so also like, to kind of reassure them like, no, there's measures in place against that. And so a person would get in a lot of trouble if they did that. And so like, this is not a reason to hold back your issue, right? Could just help over time, people like kind of change that narrative if we put it out there.
And with kids and parents that have come across these situations, I explain to them, if anything is said or done, please let us know so that we can handle that.
And I think, the work that you guys have done over the last year, kudos to you. I think you have eased a lot of those fears, but it's always good to have something in writing to fall back on. So it might be worth looking into putting in, under.
I said it must be in one of the policies.
Yeah, I mean, I remember reading a little bit about it, but it didn't really, it just said, we won't accept the retaliation. It didn't really give any specifics or anything.
I would have to look.
Cool, thanks.
One thing, the EAP section of the coach's handbook, K has high school principal, which is spelled wrong, and then it has the wrong superintendent still. I don't know if we can update that, or if to update the actual EAP plan as well.
Oh, it is the EAP plan.
Yeah,
that
because
was
this is
just
a copy of the
yes,
actual plan.
PDF.
So we have to put that in. Policies and procedures to update that. What is that? Oh, that's Karen, isn't it? So, in the,
It's an
yeah, in the
appendix.
coach's handbook, at the back, we actually have the EAP put into it. And section K, in that principal spelled wrong, and then it has contact Susan Hendrick.
And it still has athletic director in there as well, Stacy.
Oh, yeah, did you notice that?
What was that?
Stacy is still in there, the athletic director. Oh, actually, if that's the case, she's on the first page of it too. Okay, we need to revisit the whole EAP section.
Find out where it is.
Yeah, right under A, she's.
No, I meant that policy, the original
Mhm.
of that law, Stacy.
anything else on the handbooks? Last item is just informational. The Sullivan County High School Band will participate in the Grand Slam Little League World Series Parade on Monday, August 15th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. That's exciting.
It's exciting.
Is Mr. Sandonato,
Still gonna be there for that?
He is.
Okay.
Been asked to be there, yes.
thank you.
Anything else under curriculum? Anything else y'all need from us?
Just the retaliation piece, we'll certainly follow up, not intending to push that aside. That just breaks my heart that that could potentially be happening, or I know the administration, we won't tolerate that, so we'll certainly look and see what policy we have and follow up with you on
I'm
that.
gonna
I just sent myself an email.
Yeah, I know,
said,
I'm ready to go.
I'm gonna venture to say there's some just past stuff that people are still.
Sure, yeah, so
I
we
think,
will give
people
that the proper attention.
kind of project some of their own experiences even from when they were in school. It might not even be something that they were experiencing in the present, but if we can do something to kind of alleviate that anxiety, we can work on that.
Awesome.
Yeah, y'all have done a lot to change the narrative in this district over the last year about many things, and I think we'll continue to do that. So. All right, that's it for curriculum.
Transportation, it's everything we had in additional items, current motion is required. The bus inspections were completed in July. The annual contractors meeting.
You just
Is
hosted
that
today.
today? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Guessing that's why all the buses were. Bus radios were scheduled for installation today. And the Cradle Point routers installation through that window of time.
Yep. Yeah, so they were here last week, and then didn't get as far as they hoped last week, so they rescheduled for this week. And I'd like to thank Inshore Technologies, who is the company that did it. They initially had the opening for Wednesday and Thursday of this week, but I said, hey, we've got our contractors meeting happening on Tuesday. It'd be really great if all of their buses were done at the end of that meeting. And they moved some of their projects around so that way their team could be back up here yesterday and today. So, and they were finished with the remainder of the buses by the end of the contractors meeting. They actually even picked up the last bus down at the 5-Star Bus Depot in Williamsport, where it's down there for repairs. And they went a little bit out of their way on their trip back to Johnstown to finish that last bus for us. So much appreciated on that front. I did send an email back to Crystal's question today after I, just on the topic of the Cradle Point routers, after I confirmed with Pennsylvania's E-rate coordinator that our application right now has Verizon services in the grant, but we can add AT&T onto any Cradle Point router that we choose. There's 2 SIM card slots in each of those devices, so some of the routes that I know go to the western part of the county where maybe the Verizon service isn't as good, those devices can fail over from one cellular service provider to another. So that's something, and I do have pricing on that, something I've been, looking into basically since the June meeting. So we'll get some test data back. Waiting on public sector pricing, because right now from AT&T I have their business level pricing. That just seems more expensive than what I would think school districts should be paying. So as soon as I get that,
And do
see
we
how
have
it's
enough money in the grant to cover that if we have to swap some or add some or
So the grant funds are.
Or that is just for the equipment?
Yeah, no, that covers the monthly service, but that's like locked into Verizon right now. So we would be paying with district funds for the AT&T. But keep in mind, we're gonna have to make a decision about paying for this with local funds eventually anyway. So, it'd just be a process that we'd evaluate how effectively it was being used.
How
And
many
what the
total
quality
buses
system.
do you have?
24 vehicles.
24 vehicles, so it'd be essentially 24 hotspots with the SIM card payment.
Yep. So it's about the Verizon number that they quoted in the grant was $39.99. So you're looking, about $1,000 a month out of pocket.
I don't know what the speed of it is, nor do I want to report for 911, but I know that 911's emergency service center is like on Verizon pretty heavily because I'm sure everyone has noticed, but the Verizon service has significantly dipped in like the last 8 months.
I recently switched over my work phone to AT&T, and it's phenomenal. Like in the Shunk area, Stella. I never had service out there.
I find it odd that when you can like actually look and see the tower, the
And
Verizon
that
cell
you
tower,
have
you still
no
can't get service.
Yeah, we'll evaluate the coverage with these, as we're using them. If we're not happy with what we're getting from Verizon, we'll see where we need to add in on AT&T.
All right. Awesome.
I'm not
Anybody?
sure where this falls in, but talking about the routers, somebody reached out to me in Mary Elise, and I think she brought it. Did you bring it to Lance's attention about guest Wi-Fi?
Oh, yeah. Wondering about why we can't have like open access Wi-Fi at the campus for guests. I guess there are some other districts that do that.
There are some other districts that do that. There's concerns that we've had in the past in regards to E-rate and how that functions. We could look into that.
Is that pending? What do you mean by the
So
E-rate thing?
E-rate compliance.
Oh.
Whether you're, and this goes back years, and it's just not something we've looked into recently, but we could look into that. And then some of those systems that are used for guest Wi-Fi, of course, with our wireless controller, it would be an additional license cost on top of what we're paying already. So, but I can look into it.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know how much or what the stipulations would be.
It was a good talk point.
Yeah.
And it would be helpful when groups like the PTO get together and they're streaming their meetings. It would
Yep.
make it a lot easier on them.
Thank you, yeah, because I emailed that, but I forgot to.
That was a last minute request. It's just something to look into.
Yeah.
I'm not sure clubs, they can access through firewall because they are students and they have usernames and passwords and things. But I'm thinking, you have somebody here who's watching a kid basketball and they're streaming for their grandfather. Even though we're trying to stream things, like I'm just pitching it out there. But anywho, thanks for looking into it.
Yeah, I agree. It'd be nice if we had guests. Nothing else, go to personnel.
All right, approval to hire a food service worker, 5 hours a day. Do you want me to say names, no names? Okay, that was Natalie Wood. Addition to the list, approved substitute food service workers, Dana Lichtenberger and Tina Molyneux. Request from a professional employee for maternity leave is Caitlin Ellis. Request from a professional employee for paternity leave, Dylan Wiesner. Administration may make recommendation for hiring of a social studies teacher after interviews are conducted. Acceptance of a letter of resignation from a professional employee, which was Jason Sandinato. 7, approval to advertise based on the resignation in 6. which was San Donato. Number 8, administration may make recommendation regarding the hiring of a paraprofessional, and that's after interviews as well. And then 9, acceptance of letter of resignation from school police officer Rob Reeves, which I guess we should probably add in there, advertise for that.
Yes, that's the only note I had. I can't remember, when is his?
Before school starts. Yeah.
So that's a gap.
Anyone have anything?
Is it possible for us to reach out to the ESP just to see if they can bridge a gap for, I mean, obviously they can't be here like on shift, but maybe increase presence.
You gotta speak up for the hard of hearing.
Yeah.
He's asking if we can
Everybody,
reach out
seems
to
like everybody's whispering
PSP.
tonight, I'm not sure why.
Mr. Reeves is already doing that.
He's already asking them if they can
Yeah.
help us with that.
Yeah. He's looking for people who have retired or going to retire.
No, I think he meant like a
Temporary.
trooper that's down
So
there.
somebody to come up.
Just
and-
Yeah.
increase presence.
I'm sure once they're aware, they already make outside lots of the school, but they'd probably be willing.
Yeah, they've increased their presence on campus in the past based on circumstances, you know, the national events and that sort of thing. I'm sure Officer Reeves has established a good relationship with them, so we could, you know, leverage that.
Yeah, I feel like what Gabe's asking for is like a detail, right? There's gotta be somebody willing to like, is that what it's called? There's gotta be someone willing to work like
Be great.
extra, short term, just.
Maybe just have like a just more unexpected and unannounced, just, hey, state troopers doing a tour today through the building. Just random
It's worth
times.
the ask. Yeah.
Just things like that, just to make sure that.
Or
we're
even
aware.
maybe
Yeah.
like on their days off, one of them will wanna work up here for a couple of hours or something.
Yeah, we pay, I'm not asking for volunteers or anything.
Yeah, yeah,
The security piece is huge, but I think
We'll
the other
take that
thing
on.
is,
yeah, whose job is that?
Yeah, we'll reach out. Yep.
there's a lot of kids that looked up Officer Reeves that
Yeah, I
are gonna
know.
be pretty bummed out. I remember
Yeah.
my kids talking about kickball games and stuff like this.
Yeah, I can say the silver lining in COVID was
Yeah.
the ability to drop my kids off at school a lot because I could drop them off before, and he was around for sure.
Yeah, we're gonna miss.
Yeah, I'll get in touch with Officer Reeves and see what our options are with PSP. Cool.
That's all for personnel.
There's an additional item of the mentor.
Oh yes, under personnel,
Oh, I
in
didn't see
your
that.
folder, additional item regarding mentors for new staff members.
Yeah, Stacy Strabella for Marcy Higley and Michael Comerall for Jai Ziegler.
When's Mr. Ziegler gonna start?
I don't have that exact date. Doug is reaching out to their superintendent. He also left a message, just called a few minutes ago, so
Okay.
they could hold him.
I know, that's why.
I spoke with him yesterday, and they have interviews scheduled, so if that, some of it will depend on how long, if that person needs to be held, so.
Be nice to know, because you'd be scheduling these classes.
Substitutes, yes. Yep. Just waiting, Doug has to talk to the superintendent, so.
If nothing else, last is policy and procedure. Mary Elise or Crystal, do one of you guys want to take this?
I can do it. The first item is informational, SW PBIS discipline referral forms replacing 218-AR-0 and 218-AR-1. So this is part of the bigger PBIS program we're doing. Do y'all just want to, I know not, just want to speak to that a little bit, like how these fit into that, these forms?
Yeah, so those forms they align with the Swiss behavior management system, so they go over major behaviors that are of concern. It aligns with the system that we are using to collect data. So basically, these forms will ask teachers who are submitting, a referral to the office to complete them. So we have the information as far as time of day, location. In the elementary, we already had a lot of these things on the form. It was kind of revamped, and at the high school, I think
It's a lot different.
it's a lot different. So that allows us then to go back and use the data in the system to see what time of day, what day of the week are we having more behavior issues. Is there a certain location that we need to plan a behavioral intervention for? So it's just aligning the language with what's in the system that we are using to monitor behavior.
And is this part of the training y'all are doing too? with
Yes,
PBIS?
it was, and the teachers
Okay.
were part of developing the referral forms. The committees.
They go to the office when they're referred to y'all, or who do they talk to?
If
Who do
it's
they
a
talk to?
major, it would be an office referral. Minors are considered classroom, so that would not be filled out for a minor behavior. That would be more of a major.
But it would be, they'd enter it right into the computer
Yeah.
for us for a minor.
Yep.
Anyone else have questions about these, or yes? Item 2, approval of the following policies after second read. Policy 913, non-school organizations, groups, and individuals. Policy 810.1, school bus drivers and school commercial motor vehicle drivers. Policy 810.3, school vehicle drivers, and policy 204, attendance. So remember, we talked about these last month, and then now we're actually adopting them. Or
I do
voting
have to
to
a
adopt.
question on policy 204. It was briefly discussed amongst a million other things last month, and this was a first read, now we're on second read, so I apologize. But the 10-day absent communication, how that's all going to work. I'm going to throw a scenario at you because it'll be my scenario. My daughter has expanders going in. There is no orthodontist locally, so her appointment's at 9 a.m. in Clark Summit. We take her to it. There's an hour and a half drive, get that done. In pain, not back home until close to noon, 1 o'clock. This is a weekly event. So after the 10th week of school, my daughter's already missed 10 days of school. How is that going to reflect? Is that an excuse? You don't need to call me, or are we going to call and talk about that, or is that going to children?
So that is excused. It
Okay.
still counts towards the 10 days. The phone calls are made for unexcused.
So the 10 day is for unexcused.
10 days is
No.
absences.
Okay.
Anything after the 10 days, they need a doctor's note for.
But you're already gonna have a doctor's.
Yeah, but you
note.
would
Okay.
Returning.
They would all be considered excused because you
Right.
have the note. It's just once you hit the 10, then they would continue to need the note afterwards.
Well, here's so let's. I'm just trying to foolproof the policy, I guess, to make sure that it's fair and consistent. So, 10 weeks. So that's 2 months into the school, a little over, and she's sick around Thanksgiving. It's just my excuse at that point. So, how does that roll out?
That's her first unexcused.
Well, no, so she has a fever.
It's
Like,
10,
I'm not gonna
like
take
the
her
law
back
says
with a
10
fever.
days. But in that process, you would be developing a school attendance improvement plan. And we could discuss, like, she's got these doctor's appointments. So I can't, we can't avoid that. And we can discuss.
But my fear is, I think, I'm just using my child, but we look at the school, we are a small school, but the kids have, braces are the first thing that hit my mind when you start thinking about it. Especially the expanders, every week type thing. A lot of kids are gonna hit that who have braces, and I'm just concerned, like, they do get that fever, or they do just get a cough or a runny nose and they stay home, and we're wasting everybody's time with having a bunch of meetings, then they had 10 excused with doctor's notes. That's my only fear, and I just like the policy to reflect that in some way or fashion. I don't know how we can,
The
but
school improvement conferences, just to clarify, Anthony, are for unexcused absences. So when you hit 10 or 6 actually, 6 unexcused absences, you're considered habitually truant under the law. So that's when that conference would take place. So if your child is missing school and you have a written note that is considered to be excused or a doctor's note, we will not be in contact with you until you hit that 10 point to be like, hey, we know you have notes for these, but just to let you know you're at your 10, please continue to provide notes, is really the conversation that would be happening at that point. I get what you're saying, if you've had 10 notes and then you just use your judgment as a parent to keep them home. I would think that, I mean, this is something that we could ask John about, as Audi about, but my thought would be as long as there are excused absences, notes provided, we have documentation for where the child is, that they're safe, why they're not here, that would be vastly different than.
Sure.
But still something that may warrant a conversation, because if your kid is missing a day every week, even though it's legitimate, it still might be something that it's like, hey, is there something we need to do to supplement what's the education that your child is getting, or something that we need to do to support your kid, because missing one day of school every week could
In other
be
words, the
impacting their.
conversation is more educational than it is about
Absolutely.
The actual.
Punitive.
Yes. And that's a big reason why attendance is important, though. When you have kids that are missing a lot of days of school, then they're not here for us to educate them, whether it's for legitimate medical reasons or it's not. That's really, the big reason is we want them to, here so we can educate them. We can't teach them if they're not here, whether it's legitimate reasons or it's not. It's just when it's not legitimate reasons, there may be something else that's a problem that we need to address in addition to that.
It sounds like if your kid's gonna be missing a lot of school, and by you, I mean general public, like be in touch with the principal of the kid, like keep them in the loop like you're doing here, so that like we kind of just can work together to make it work.
So to build off of Anthony's scenario, what happens is my kid gets close to the 10th. I don't want to talk to y'all about my kid's absences. He's running a fever. I'm like, you can't miss any more school, go to school. What is our process for mitigating kids coming in with fevers, not feeling good?
None of those policies would be changing as far as the expectation of fever-free or, the information that does, I believe, get sent home to parents at the beginning of the school year. I would think an issue that we kind of need to think about is, I don't even want to say it, but quarantining. I mean, if somebody has to close contact quarantine, they're not going to necessarily have a doctor's note. So it's certainly not, I feel like we could sit here and go through scenario after scenario. It's not intended to be punitive. We just want, our students here at
Right.
school. And I think there's going to be a lot to work through, but it's aligned with the state law, so it's.
Right, I just want to make sure that we have a plan in place to say, hey, yes, we get that you don't want to have a conversation with us, but at the same time, your kid cannot come to school with 104 people.
Yeah, they would be sent home. They would be sent home.
I just want the policy to be able to reflect the things that we're talking about. So Mary Lee, you hit it, what you were saying. What's going to happen, how it's going to take place. But I think that needs to be documented in the policy. So we can say like what ifs, like you're saying, but if it's not spelled out, like in such case as, X, Y, and Z is followed. So you're saying if I have 10, but they're already excused, does the policy reflect that 10 excused versus unexcused in this policy 204?
Look at the handbook too. I feel like it is worded that way, but maybe I'm.
Yeah, and those are the things I think. I agree with what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that kid who just misses school and we don't know why, and we want that kid to not be lost. That's the whole purpose of this policy. But I also want to make sure if we're doing a policy that we're not affecting those who are trying to do the right thing for health, safety reasons for their child.
Well, like they said, 10 is 10. You're still going to get that phone call just because of the policy, but they know you're not one of those people because you have the note.
And also it will open that communication too, to be like, all right, these are legitimate absences, but is there something different we need to be doing to address this to make sure that everyone's education is okay? Which is, I think it's like these attendance things are twofold. It's one, is everything okay with the kid, but also they're not here. So what are we going to do to help make sure that they're being educated?
Personally, when I read the handbook, I think this takes care of Anthony's question that you had brought up. So I think it hopefully is like clear, but you should definitely if you
I have no fear of like the truancy officer now.
Yeah, no, I know,
That's
but
not
I
what
mean,
we're trying
I'm
to do.
saying, I thought it was spelled out more clearly than the last time we talked about it, so.
Yeah.
Sure. I just wanted to make sure that it's, when we do put these policies in, I hope we're thinking of those sorts of things to not cause somebody who's concerned about their education overlook the things that their kid might need for health, safety, dental, eye, whatever. But, you know, we do the best we can, so if it needs updated,
The other thing I appreciated at the front of both handbooks was that it said that like this is not a binding contract, like we can revise this at any time. So I think that's also something for us about like if we really are finding a problem, like let's bring things back and revise them in the moment rather than like waiting. You know?
yeah, and I think part of the survey was something that a lot of the community members were concerned with was consistency.
Yeah.
So if we get our policies right, and they're not gonna be easy to do because there's like 30,000 what ifs, it's just that consistency from child to child to child, because that's what we're talking and it spurs those intents.
Pressure testing. It's a
So
good
we're
thing
saying
to do.
archery season is still an excused absence then?
No.
I think I found a volunteer for this archery thing. That's what we need, somebody to spearhead it, Gabe Blasi.
We have to get them out of the woods first.
We do have guidelines that Sam and I kind of created so that we're following and being consistent.
Not like
That
we
would-
dreamed up the ideas, but like.
Right, right.
No, and that, I think.
Yeah, I'd argue that that's educational.
Because I know we can add addendums to the policies, and that would be great to have
You
on
can
there.
see it
because-
like an AR attachment
Right.
to it.
Yeah, because I've seen that before, like you need your clearances, and then you see accept, and then you follow a link on the webpage and it shows you what they are, so that's a great idea.
Yeah. And as far as educating families, we had discussed that. Once it's board approved, then we would kick that out, but we didn't want to push information without board approval.
And intend to send something in the packets, this beginning of school year packets.
Good.
And I think it's interesting too, I know we poked around a bit in neighboring districts, their attendance policies, just to see like, what does ours look like compared to, not that we need to be like everybody else, but we were pretty much in line as far as the policy goes, with the exception of that 15 and 10 day. So that was,
Illegal or unexcused absences, number 5, hunting official.
It's worth a shot.
Thank you for all the support. Anything else other with policy and procedure?
Just, I don't know where it falls in, but the EAP plan, is that something you guys are gonna look at?
I made a note to just email everybody, see who,
See where it's located.
yeah.
That was all. That's it. Unless someone has
That's it.
something.
Lynn, I have someone
Turn the
who
live stream
would
off.
be very interested in pool archery.
Okay.
So when you're ready to.
So we'll get contact
The
information.
10 days is
Well, he knows